What's going on, everybody? March 1980, Philadelphia, gentle dawn, but death was riding shotgun. Angelo Bruno, the gentle dawn, old school, calm, respected, a godfather who thought peace would last forever, until, boom, a .38 to the back of the head, one pull of the trigger, and the Philly Mafia would never be the same. That shot didn't just end a dawn, it started a war, because what came next wasn't just the Mafia fighting for control, it was the Mafia versus the bikers. Two worlds, two codes, one bloody collision. Let's get into it. When Nicodemo, Little Nicky Scarfo, took over, he made one fatal mistake. He tried to shake down the wrong people. His collectors walked into a pagan motorcycle club bar in Philly. They demanded tribute money. The bikers just laughed. No fear, no respect, just mockery. And that laughter was the sound of war being declared. You see, the pagans weren't some backstreet gang. They were an army, military veterans turned outlaws. One of the big four biker empires alongside the Hells Angels, Outlaws, and Bandidos. They ran drugs, guns, and chaos from coast to coast. And when Scarfo's men told them to pay up, they didn't just refuse, they retaliated. After one of Scarfo's underbosses rammed his car into a pagan rider, the club hit back hard. Firebombs, drive-bys, targeted hits. They torched cars, shot up houses, and made it crystal clear, you don't touch a pagan. The result? For the first time in U.S. history, the Italian Mafia, La Cosa Nostra itself, was forced to pay damages to a biker gang. $5,000. Not much money, but a massive humiliation. That single moment changed everything. The mob had met its match. The bikers weren't afraid. They were organized, violent, and unbreakable. And that opened the door to a new kind of underworld, where old-school mobsters and outlaw bikers stopped fighting over territory and started sharing empires. 500 miles north, another boss was watching. Vito Rizzuto, the Don of Montreal, Canada's godfather. But unlike the Americans, Rizzuto didn't try to fight the bikers. He partnered with them. He built something unheard of, a criminal consortium, a network of equals, the Rizzuto Mafia family, and the Hells Angels, led by the legendary Maurice "Mom" Boucher. The mob handled money laundering, political connections, and international drug pipelines. The Angels brought muscle, distribution, and street control. Together, they built a billion-dollar drug empire stretching from Sicily to South America. But power always comes at a price. In 1994, Quebec exploded into chaos, the Quebec Biker War. 8 years of blood and fire, 160 dead, 80 bombings, over 100 arsons. And behind the scenes, Rizzuto tried to play peacemaker. He even got the two deadliest biker leaders, Boucher of the Angels and Frederick Faucher of the Rock Machine, to sit down for dinner. They shook hands, hugged, and hit the strip club together just to prove the war was over, but it wasn't. The Rock Machine joined the Bandidos. The bloodshed came roaring back, and when it finally ended, the Hells Angels stood taller than ever, and so did the Mafia that backed them. Meanwhile, in New York City, the rules were different. The Bonanno family, crippled by FBI infiltration after Donnie Brasco, had to rely on biker gangs just to survive. They started partnering with the Hells Angels. Drugs, money, guns, shared business, shared blood. The bikers transported the drugs from Canada to the States. The mob sold it, laundered the cash, and kicked profits back up the chain. One operation alone moved over $1 billion in drugs from 1998 to 2012. It wasn't mob versus biker anymore. It was mob with biker. But the partnership wasn't always smooth. When Bonanno soldiers tried to intimidate biker guards at a Long Island funeral, the bikers beat them bloody. 3 made men, laid out on the floor. The message was clear. The old Mafia rules didn't work anymore. These weren't wise guys. These were warriors. Out west, the Mongols were rewriting the script. Vietnam vets turned gangsters, forged in East LA, born out of racial rejection from the Hells Angels. By the 1980s, they ruled Southern California until the Mexican Mafia came knocking. La M.A. demanded tribute. The Mongols laughed. Sound familiar? Refusal meant war. Bodies dropped on both sides. Eventually, both groups reached a truce, but not before proving something deadly. The old crime families no longer controlled the streets. The new generation did. Fast forward to 2023, Quebec again. But this time, the bikers weren't the rebels. They were the establishment. The Hells Angels had grown old, slow, structured, and then came the Blood Family Mafia, young, ruthless, social media-driven killers, cartel tactics, live torture videos, psychological warfare for a digital age. They stopped paying taxes to the Angels. They kidnapped, tortured, and murdered to send a message. The streets don't belong to the old men anymore. And shockingly, the Hells Angels didn't fight back. They negotiated, even asked the police to intervene. That's how much the world had changed. From the Mafia's golden age to the biker wars of the 80s to the digital cartels of today, one truth stands out. The war is over, the lines are blurred, and the Mafia and the bikers, they're not enemies anymore. They're business partners, global, digital, unstoppable. Because in organized crime, adaptation is survival. And the new underworld, it doesn't wear suits, it rides Harleys.